All right, my friends, welcome. It's another amazing episode of the loneliest stream in the world. I see we got 3 viewers over there. Well, fuck it. Oh, shit. It's another exactly, motherfucker. I already fucking forgot to turn myself off on the other screen, but that doesn't matter. 3 viewers is all we need. It's one viewer to oh fuck it. All right, well, 3 viewers is all we need on the stream. This stream is not about views. It's about the connections with the world. It's about opening up new crevices in our mind that we kept hidden, that we kept closed. It's also about gender roles, this stream. Mr. Robbins, did you know that it was about gender roles?
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Exactly, because we want to be men. We want to be total men. We want to be total alphas, total, complete, unapologetic alphas. A lot of people don't have the whole kind of 360 degree. And Mr. Robbins, it's because nobody told them how to cry. Everything about them, it might be alpha, but there is a core component missing. The core component of how to cry like a man. How to cry like a man. There is a kind of the weakest link, the chink in the armor. And it's, and it's about crying. It's about not knowing how to fucking weep. How to weep like a man. And the thing about crying like a man, Mr. Robbins, is that there is no whimpering. None of that shit. There is no whimpering like a man. You can cry like a man. You can't fucking whimper like that's whimper. So a real man goes straight for the tear, straight for fucking anal. Exactly. Like even if you feel you need a little whimper, just hide that whimper from the world. Be like, and then go for the fucking salty tear as fast as you can. If you can't fucking shed a tear, then fucking run away, man. Fucking get away with that shit. If you need to whimper, you should be ashamed of yourself if you need to whimper. And that's how America was built, Mr. Robbins. Like a John Wayne figure would look into the sky and see some Native Americans out there in the field, wherever they fucking fought. In the fucking woods, wherever that shit went down. He would look at them and he would drop a salty one like a man. And so would the Native American chief. And they knew that only one tribe could prevail here, that only one group of men can turn this into a shitty fucking strip mall with shitty fucking Arby's where pointless teenagers walk around looking at their phones. It was us and them, two salty ones, dropped on the floor, and the native sent to the reservation. So that's what the stream was about, Mr. Robbins.
Great, I'm prepared.
Exactly. And not only have we do we discuss generals, but we're also coming up with new merchandise connected with the stream. And this is, of course, I'm talking, of course, Mr. Robbins, about the Gentleman Weeper. Have you any guesses about what the Gentleman Weeper actually is, Mr. Robbins?
I have no idea, but my curiosity is at an all-time high.
Well, a Gentleman Weeper, Mr. Robbins, I don't have a prototype with me right now because I want to unveil it when it's done. But it's one of those handkerchiefs, It's one of those decorative handkerchiefs. And here in the corner, there would be a tear to indicate that you are that 360-degree man, right? Or is it, well, whatever, that you know how to weep also like a man. And so this is a kind of a sign and a signal. Like Masons have their own, like, little rituals and shit that they do, the handshake, all these symbols and shit.
Correct. And the Proud Boys have the rooster and the shirt.
Exactly. Now you're thinking. And we will have a Gentleman Weeper. Like I'll be looking for a job soon, and let's say I'm going to Discount Tire to work as a tire transporter there. I will come in my three-piece suit over there, and I will have fucking the gentleman weeper to complete the package. So they see the handkerchief with the tear on it,
Yeah.
and they know what's up. They know that I can weep like a man with that handkerchief.
It's a
You go
signal.
through-
It's a signal of the type of man you are.
It's a signal of the type of a man I am. I go meet a little honey. She's kind of old casual. I come in there in the suit with the gentleman weeper. She knows that when it comes to crying, if she hurts my feelings, there's not going to be any whimpering. Fucking a manly tear will drop on the floor. Okay, Mr. Robbins. So
I'm sold.
yeah, exactly. So we will be out and about that. Well, welcome everyone to this dumb, pointless stream. And today we're mostly going to cover low-key, kind of shitty, different news that's going on in the world. We're going to talk about a little bit about the elections. We're going to talk about, of course, Megyn Kelly's blackface comments that have shook the world. We're going to talk about an individual that I have banned from the channel. How did that happen? How can anybody be banned from the shitty, pointless channel that nobody, watches? They really have to have transgressed against my feelings if I ban their ass. We're going to talk about H3H3 and just different YouTube shit. Louis C.K. a bit in the end. We'll finish up with Louis C.K. and a kind of a meta sketch that we will encounter in the end. So recently, Mr. Robbins has journeyed outside of our state of Ohio on some sort of a trip following a band that he fancies. And there was a unique event that happened with Mr. Robbins. I will very quickly summarize it, but then Mr. Robbins can complete the details. Mr. Robbins was over there hanging out and decided to go to the library to catch some sweet Wi-Fi. Mr. Robbins went over there when he was propositioned by an old man. But the proposition was platonic in nature. The old man wanted Mr. Robbins to help him book some tickets to take a bus. And the man had a dog, I guess, for sympathy. Mr. Robbins, from the very beginning, was very suspicious of this old man. And he diligently had to fulfill his duty as a human being and a citizen to the old timer. But at the same time, there was wariness and distrust. And finally, Mr. Robbins has fulfilled his duty, fucking printed out the ticket. And what happened to the old man? Motherfucker went to the bathroom and fucking disappeared. Where is this old fucking geezer, this piece of shit? So that's the whole fucking story as I understand it. Is there anything more to it, Mr. Robbins?
No, that's really it. I mean, he ghosted me. Yeah, I was over there taking advantage of the city of Chicago's fine Wi-Fi in the big public library downtown. He came over and asked if I could help him with the getting on the internet to help him book a ticket to originally wanted to go to Oakland. And I mean, I've spent enough times in some of those big cities that it's like, it's not uncommon for a person to get scammed, to be targeted as a mark. So yeah, my defense went up real quick. But at the same time, you think, I'm a real dirtbag if I turn this guy down and he really needs help, and all it is trying to get him on the computer. So yeah, after all that and getting on the phone and booking him, actually it ended up being a train ride to Atlanta. Yeah, he said he would come back and I would print the information off. He walked away and never came back. So I'm not sure what that was all about.
Well, to me, what it was all about as I was reflecting on the story is there is a kind of a Kafkaesque banality. Like it's a Kafkaesque type of situation, but on a very banal level. And what I mean by that is that you're sitting there in the library and then a stranger approaches and you have some sort of a vague social obligation to this old man that you don't really want to fulfill in a way. And then he kind of prompts you to fulfill this boring kind of task, mundane task of booking fucking tickets, which is so boring and annoying already, even talking about it, booking fucking tickets for a Greyhound bus. And then he fucking vanishes. And it's like he basically conspired in a way to waste like fucking half an hour of your time. And there was a sense of a kind of a pointless task, a failed human connection, and just a kind of a kind of a dry residue in your mouth, Mr. Robbins.
Well, that's a decent way of putting it. I hadn't thought of it that way. But yeah, there was no resolution. I would have liked, I guess, at the end to have had some closure, to know whether or not it was truly a good deed done, or if I was in some way the target of some nefarious activity. But at this point, I have no idea.
Right. Yeah, it's also interesting that he had a dog. Yeah, it's just one of those kind of things, like, unfortunately, like, that's a big part of the kinds of relations we have with people as adults. I mean, not in this dramatic fashion, but maybe we're working together at the same job and we've spent like a year with them or something. But essentially, the functionality is kind of similar. That is to say, like, you're working on something, it's kind of pointless, then they disappear into the bathroom, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly that happens. It's life. It's life. Well, Mr. Robbins, why don't you you've been talking about yourself this whole time. Why don't you ask me how old Ivan is doing?
How are you doing, Ivan?
Hey. What happened with me is this. I had a little existential crisis. All fucking YouTubers are pieces of shit and they're mentally ill. And so am I. I don't want to delve deep into my emo-ness. But it was really a shocking event to me, Mr. Robbins, when I went to turn my van in, because it was making a screeching sound and the wheel was turning to the right. And I turned it into this mechanic. And they fixed the brake, but it didn't fix the issue. I feel the smoother brakes, and I feel my fucking $600 into the fucking toilet. It was some other shit. And then they kind of gave me a list of some other shit that's broken with this dumb piece of shit garbage van. And it's along the hubs, and I think the hubs are the ones that are causing this shit. But then they dropped the fucking transmission on me. The motherfuckers dropped the transmission on your boy. And
wow,
now
that's never good.
Yeah, never good. And the transmission, what they quoted me to fix that shit is $2,200, which happens to be, give or take, $500 more than my fucking measly fucking savings. And this is not a joke, because this has sent me into a psychological shock. And I'm not exaggerating, unfortunately. I'm only kind of blasé about it here. And the reason is this. Already I was feeling emo during this season. I was feeling emo because my birthday is coming up. I don't want to say exactly when, but it's coming up. And because I don't want to overshare on the internet, I do have some weird enemies and shit. Well, anyway, maybe not enemies, but whatever. So my birthday is coming up, and this, of course, is an interruption in time. Because normally what I do, the reason Mr. Salty is here, the reason that he decides to spend his time in my presence, is because we are alike. Both of us, in a sense, live outside of time. I live in I fucking cruise through life. Job so retarded that it suited me well. That is to say, this job where everything I do, and Mr. Robbins was witness to this. I take a few parts. Sometimes I take a shit ton of parts. Like recently, there was a ton of tires, but whatever. And I just drive to the next store with a piece of paper. That's how I fucking do. It's a job so retarded that it seamlessly, kind of docks and continues into my pointless daydreaming life in the real world. Like, it's a tedious driving daydreaming. But it's, I continue, and I have been anesthetized into this mediocrity. And part of this cocoon has been, of course, the van. It's the cargo van. I fucking hate that car, but I kind of love it. And now it's breaking down. I can't fucking fix it. And now I have, and combined with my birthday, I have to look in my life and see the kind of hollowness, the kind of emptiness of it, that I've just been daydreaming through another year of my existence, thanks to this van. The van has kind of reinforced what a detached loser I am, because this job is fucking a subsistence job. After all the gas expenses and the car, I mean, I probably make below minimum wage. I haven't even calculated it because A, I'm fucking impractical, and B, I just don't want to even confront it. And so if you saw a lot of jump cuts in my Louis C.K. video, baby, this is why. This is why. Because I was malfunctioning myself. I was really like, and I didn't even realize in what shock I was, because my brain started malfunctioning. I noticed that my favorite time of the day was like going to sleep, which is kind of a sign that I'm depressed. Everything is fucking hollow. Well, everything is shitty. And I was just kind of paralyzed by this fucking transmission. And it very well could be a scam, or things aren't that bad, but I have been looking for work as a result of it. I might soon part with a van, or at least it's just going to be a commuter vehicle as I look for another shitty job, except with a company car. So any reflections on that, Mr. Robbins?
Oh, wow. I mean, I have a sense, I have a feeling, I think, of maybe the point in life where you are. I was in a similar place, probably close to your age, at your age, I
30s?
Pardon me? Yeah, my early 30s. It wasn't until my early 30s that I really settled down and really decided for myself, to go a more practical route than I'd been going, because I'd been jumping around to philosophy and fine art and things like that. So, I mean, I understand. I was there, I think, going through some of that at one point too. It's not easy.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, there is a lot of indications that whereas you had practical potential, I really don't. Man, I bought this. I bought this Coca-Cola, and I wanted to do a taste test. It's a raspberry Coke,
Oh,
and raspberry flavored Coke, and I assumed that I could just open it effortlessly, but it seems like it actually wants the can opener. Let me grab my trusty knife.
do you find that this time of year like affects you emotionally at all? I really do. I really hate it.
Yeah. I mean, all right, let's do a taste test, my friends. This is California raspberry Coca-Cola I picked up here at Kroger's, but it could very well be wherever you live. I have a fondness for sugar drinks, and recently I have been enjoying the flavored colas at like White Castle and some Wendy's from that fancy fucking vending machine. And I tried to see this because I think it might be with original sugars in it. So let's see. I will reveal my taste test in the denominations of dead kangaroos, but I'm not going to go further in explaining dead kangaroos. Anyway. Gotta say, nothing special at all.
Huh.
I mean, the shit I picked up at like White Castle was much better. Very kind of a bland taste. You really don't have. There is a kind of a playfulness I find when they add these fruit flavors to the established Coca-Cola fucking taste whatever flavor, but I was looking for a fancier word, but I fucking didn't find it. Anyway, but this is really kind of flat, and I did pay like over a dollar for this. I thought it was gonna have natural sugar, but it really isn't worth it, my friends. California raspberry, not worth it.
Big thumbs down.
Yeah, gotta give it 3 dead kangaroos out of 10 as far as the attractiveness of the dead kangaroo, but I will say no more because this rating system can take us down a dark path. It's a reference to our trip to Outback Steakhouse. All right. So the next thing on the agenda here, well, actually, yeah, I did. For me, it kind of mostly equates with my birthday because I do live outside of the normal world. I am really detached from day-to-day life, and so when my birthday comes around, I do usually get depressed because it's another meaningless year. But I don't know to what extent kind of the seasons are independent of that.
But here's the thing, like it just came to mind. It's like you're kind of focusing, it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, that, a sense of meaningless or, worthlessness to a job. But I don't know that, speaking from experience, having, elevated myself a bit from where I was in my 30s to where I am now. I mean, it's nice to have, the ability to buy some nicer material things and a little more comfort, but ultimately it doesn't do that much. I have not found to ease some of that existential angst.
Yeah, it's like, Mr. Robbins, it's people like us, we've like fallen out of the natural kind of nature cycle where you get married and have kids because that's what ultimately people find fulfilling. They lose themselves and their kids. Their ego is relaxed and abandoned in favor of the kids. They feel this interdependence. And that's the natural kind of progression of humanity as is outlined perhaps by nature, but at least by the American bourgeois norms. And the fact that we have not engaged on this path either means that women don't want to have sex with us or that we were not destined for this path to begin with. There's something wrong with us, or a combination of both.
I could accept that. The other thing is, though, you seem to be explaining it in terms of maybe something akin to spirituality, the connection between people. But I sometimes look at it too in terms of just kind of, how would I even want to put it? The fact that you get married, you have a home, you have a job, you have children, you have parents, maybe that you're taking care of, just the amount of work and effort in that doesn't give you as much time as maybe people like you and me who have far too much time to just sit and reflect. I think there's a practical advantage sometimes to having those obligations as well. It keeps your mind occupied on things that need to get done.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something to it. In the comments here, Blaze Maverick writes, nature is evil. Being outside of her plan is a cause for joy. I do concede that nature is evil. It is a cycle of death and misery. The strong dominates the weak, and but the giving birth and having a sense of interdependence with kids, that is the height of mammalian capacity. That is like a superpower of mammals. I mean, of course, some other animals do it too, birds, but I would say that that's different. But talking about the evils of nature and the abuse of animal by animal, today, Mr. Robbins, I saw something disturbing. I was driving. I was driving 75, a semi, a truck, and there were cages there, and I saw some bowls inside of it. Kind of seemed like there were bowls stuffed on one on top of the other, white bowls. And you know what they were?
I'm going to guess out here where I live, the turkey farm.
Yeah, exactly. They were turkeys. Now you are a country boy and you are immune to this, but I found it kind of disturbing because it was pretty cold today, and these turkeys were exposed to windshield and just stuffed one on top of the other. It was like a kind of a kind of not an advertisement, but like a show of industrial farming that I particularly didn't want to confront at that moment. And I really felt shitty for these turkeys. And I have for a long time wanted to be a vegetarian, but it's not going to happen now. But it was kind of disturbing and existential in and of itself, because it's like, well, I don't have a problem with humans killing animals for food, but it seems to me that our killing of the animals, considering our technology and everything else and our advanced capacities, should be more humane than that which happens in nature. But it seems like it is way less humane in many circumstances.
Yeah, I told you I saw that movie about that little town there in Indiana, and that focused on some pig farming, the older style of pig farming. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a cruel way to go.
Yeah, it's really commodification of animals that I object to more than their killing for subsistence. My friends, which brings us to a great a great exercise of democracy we had here in the United States of America. It was almost as awesome. Some people said it was a blue wave of Democrats, and I don't know. I mean, when I think of a blue wave of democracy, Robbins, I think it's that blue wave of the Russian referendum that swept over Crimea and reunited it with the motherland. Of course, we are the only English language stream that recognizes Crimea as a part of the Russian Federation. And this issue is specifically important to you, Mr. Robbins, is it not?
Oh, very important. I'll wrap my head around it one of these days.
Yeah, half the time I was talking about Crimea, Mr. Robbins had no idea what the fuck I was referring to. And, okay, well, both of us have voted here in the swing state of Ohio, Mr. Robbins and I assume, Mr. Robbins, you voted for the caravan, you voted for the Democratic Party, or have you betrayed the caravan of rapists, thugs, and terrorists? Have you betrayed by casting a single vote for Republican on your ballot?
No, much like yourself, I was very lazy. I did no research of the candidates or the issues. I looked at the ballot, and anything that said Democrat, I marked. Other than I gave a quick glance to something that was on there about reducing the penalty for drug offenses.
Yes, a constitutional amendment that I also had no idea existed until I encountered it there.
So it's sounded good to me. So I said reduce the penalty. I mean, my assumption is, like I'm saying, I didn't do any research, but maybe it has something to do with the marijuana laws. Trying to keep people out of jail for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I am kind of people might be surprised, but I am kind of a hardliner when it comes to like locking people up for violent crimes. I think in many cases they should be locked up for life, even though kind of their lockup should be more humane than it is now, especially as they spend more time in the system. But yeah, I mean, of course, nonviolent crimes. I have no problem with drug dealers who aren't violent, or at least try to avoid violence. They frequently seem to be clever people, the bigger drug dealers, and I respect intelligence. Well, overall, the Democrats have retaken the House, and they lost some seats in the Senate. For those who may not know, if you're overseas, only 1/3 of the Senate gets elected every 2 years. Each senator gets a 6-year term. So the ones that were up for re-election right now happen to be unfavorable. This kind of a crop of candidates were unfavorable to Democrats because they were defending more seats. and they've lost some, I think, 2 seats in very red states, but seems like the Democrats are picking up Arizona right now. And the other thing that's been overlooked is, did you know, Mr. Robbins, that Mitt Romney is a senator now?
No, no.
Yeah,
I did see something about him recently, but I didn't read much into it.
yeah. I mean, this has been completely like I've just found out about it on election day when I was clicking on the map, interactive map on the New York Times website, and I clicked on Utah, and I was like, fucking shit, Mitt Romney. But yeah, Mitt Romney was a governor of Massachusetts. He ran for Senate from Massachusetts against Ted Kennedy and lost. Then he passed what effectively amounted to a blueprint for Obamacare in Massachusetts. And now he's a fucking senator from Utah. And then he was a presidential candidate, of course, against Obama, where he was bashing Obamacare, even though it has all the equivalents with the healthcare law he passed locally in Massachusetts. And now the motherfucker is a senator. And it's sweet being a Mormon in this case when you're like a Mormon, a prominent Mormon, like the first Mormon nominee for president. And then you're just, fuck it. I want, there's a free seat in Utah available. Huh, motherfucker, I'm just going to get over there. And I mean, he really didn't have to work at all for this seat whatsoever.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it makes you think, more or less a good old boys club. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. The thing that stuck out to me was somewhere along the line, either in a break room or somewhere where the television was on, was hearing Trump give glowing endorsements of Ted Cruz now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he called him Beautiful Ted now.
Yeah, now they're all buddies again. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's a lot of silliness.
Yeah, and this reminds me of our president because the caravan really captured my imagination. And on the one hand, you can this phenomenon of the caravan, because if you lived in America and you followed the news, and even like when I would drive by a local mall, like a big mall, Kenwood Mall, if you want to know. Anyway, there was a dude there standing like, say no to the caravan, with a big sign, and not once or twice, but he was there periodically, just vote for Republicans and say no to the caravan. And the caravan really kind of captured the imagination of many Americans. It's just but the interesting thing about it is the question of whether the caravan was group psychosis, whether it was collective psychosis. That is to say, they really feared the caravan, or whether the caravan was a new kind of archetype being born, that it was this moving symbol of everything they opposed. And so they were feigning hysteria about the symbology, knowing that it was a bunch of bullshit itself. It was just kind of an avatar rather than something that they genuinely feared. What are your thoughts about it, Mr. Robbins?
Oh gosh, I thought it had it. The majority of objection to it has more to do with political principle. I have felt than maybe anything all that practical or emotional. I think people view it as something that politically we can't give on this. I think that's where a lot of the
No, there was an aspect of it. We're a country of laws and we can't just let people in there. This was one aspect of it. But the other one was this idea that there are terrorists on the caravan, that there are rapists and there are no women and children there. That kind of an aspect of it. Like, so was it that's kind of what I'm focusing in on. Was it like collective genuine fear? Like the guy who was holding the sign, what did the caravan mean to him? I think it meant more than just a violation of law. It was something more existential, and whether there was a real kind of whether for the people who opposed the caravan, they kind of were in on the joke in a sense. They were kind of in on the notion that it wasn't really as menacing as they were puffing it up collectively for the election. And I'm even talking about regular people, but that it symbolized something more. or whether that fear was real and genuine.
I have a hard time believing that it was real and genuine, but that's just from my perspective of not of being someone who doesn't feel that way really at all.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to identify with someone who might feel differently.
Yeah. Well, I guess Mr. Robbins, both of us are too detached to know. The last thing I will say that I don't consider this to be a glorious blue wave. I mean, potentially Democrats could win the governor and the senator in Florida, although it doesn't look like it. It's very close. I mean, if they did, I would consider it more of a blue wave. But I mean, I think it was a respectable showing. It was a victory for the Democrats, to be sure, to capture all these seats in the House of Representatives. But I just haven't really felt a kind of a blue tsunami. I mean, the Republicans were bracing to lose the House. And beyond that, I didn't see any kind of glorious victories. Like, even here in the swing state of Ohio, that Obama won twice, and then Trump won spectacularly after that. You know, our senator, who I Sherrod Brown, whose hand I had the honor of shaking, or maybe it was he who had the honor of shaking my hands back in 2012, he got reelected easily. But the Democratic nominee for a governor actually lost.
Fortunately, that seems to be where we're at with a lot of this.
Yeah, like, check this out. This is the communists are supporting him, and here's a line of communists here. So this is the Democratic candidate for governor. This is Bernie Sanders, fucking Hillary Clinton, and look who's this, my friends.
Oh, it's hard to see.
Vladimir Putin.
Now, wait a minute. How have they turned this? But Putin's ties to the Democrats. I thought he was tied to Trump.
I know. I mean, they're all in it together. Fucking Putin and Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. They all fucking love each other.
Yeah, he's a pawn of everyone.
Yeah, and this is who Putin is supporting. Fucking, you know, he has the old Ushanka head there with a communist symbol.
So you have a degree in political science. Is this just business as usual? Do you sense, like, is politics this way everywhere? Because this kind of stuff is truly strikes me as being infantile, and all of the ads that were nonstop, that were endless slander. I mean, it all seems like grade school WWE mentality nonsense.
I mean, I think that it's that way in large countries. The bigger the countries, the kind of more hysterical the smears. That tends to be my overall impression. Like, politics is very ugly in Russia, of course, and it seems to be like in India. Well, in India, yeah, people die there, so yeah, it seems like in all the large countries, this is more of an issue. But I think in smaller European countries, generally speaking, it's not this profane. Somebody suggested in the chat that I apply for work in the Russian consulate. I mean, I think half of them have been expelled by now, and the other ones are suspected of treason. So I don't think they take me in the Russian consulate. They need to sneak as many intelligence officials in them as possible. All right, so the last thing I'll say about the elections is I haven't consulted Mr. Robbins at all, but it is the official position of the stream that I think that Nancy Pelosi should go as speaker. I mean, she's been in there now. She's been a speaker when Obama first got elected. And replace her with another lady. I'm fine. I'm not a sexist. But it just seems like she's been in there forever, and she's just not an effective communicator. And it's not a problem to not be an effective communicator, but seems like there should be an expiration date on your position in power. And I don't think her results have been particularly stellar nor were they particularly horrible if you're more of a centrist. If you're a leftist, of course, you hate her. But yeah, I think I wish there would be somebody else. Any thoughts on that, Mr. Robbins?
No, the only thing I really heard the other day was that part of her attraction is the amount of money that she brings in a position like that. So I guess that would have to be weighed into it.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's how it is in America. You constantly have to milk people for money. And actually, I would have potentially given Democrats some money this election, but I mean, they have spammed my fucking email to the core. And it was just so obnoxious that I couldn't bring myself to give them money because of this. I mean, they've really kind of, even though it all went into my spam folder, I still felt assaulted just by looking at my spam folder. I mean, it's like, hey, it's Barack Obama, you know, I have an important message for you. And you're like, well, is there anything in this appeal aside from money? No, there's not. And then there's like Jimmy Carter, and it's like, well, fuck you, Jimmy Carter. Fuck you, fucking Obama, you know? Anyway, it was just too fucking much. It really was obnoxious, but I mean, that's what they have to do. And, you know, fucking, you know, I need to write Obama to help me out with the transmission, or Jimmy Carter or whatever. Jimmy Carter was fucking building those houses for poor people back in the day. Maybe he can fucking swing on by and fucking help me out with the transmission on my van. You know what I'm saying, Mr. Robbins?
Yeah, or any thought, you know, Dave Rubin, rumor is he's got the Koch brothers as backing his channel or his whatever he's got going on, that maybe you could pick up a sponsor.
Yeah, I think
George Soros.
Yeah, Mr. Robbins, if I could, I'd have like 2 fucking old George Soros balls in my mouth right now, if I could fucking get to that point. But you know, anyway, well, I think you know, Dave Rubin can send me like a transmission from Amazon on you know, flown by 2 drones, and then they just fucking drop it on my car, you know. Anywho, well, we're gonna move on to maybe a less frivolous and fun topic, but it's one that must be addressed, and it's how would you get banned from this shitty dumb channel? How do you do it? And I recently have banned an individual after an unfortunate exchange in my Buddhist video about emptiness. And actually, because it is not my strength reading in the English language, Mr. Robbins has been so kind as to volunteer to read this important exchange that has vanished from there because I, of course, banned him, and all his messages, comments disappear from the channel. But I have preserved it, shared it on my Facebook page, and now we will study it again like the rabbis study the Torah. So, are you ready, Mr. Robbins?
I'm ready.
Okay, the person's name, someone, that's his username.
Right, so someone begins. It's so funny hearing a bipolar guy talking about enlightenment, meaning, and whatnot. Get real, Ivan. Eat those pills. Life has no meaning, and pretending it does, Buddhism, whatever, is so fucking ridiculous. Get over yourself, honey. It's hard accepting nihilism, but we all know that's where you're ending up. Ivan's response: emptiness has no relation to meaning. It has been criticized as nihilistic. Aside from that, illusion of meaning, if necessary for existence, is fine by me as a nihilist. Someone replies: the pursuit of nirvana has meaning, a purpose. The Buddhist idea of reaching some kind of enlightenment and ego destruction is kind of meaningful, no? I do think meaning and the essence of being is tied to all philosophical or religious things, even Buddhism or nihilism. Nihilism doesn't claim that there's some sort of nirvana, non-existence to strive toward. Or maybe I've misunderstood Buddhism. The pursuit of meaning is what justifies most beliefs. No? Tell me if you want to butt in at any point.
Oh, no, go ahead. I think we need to finish this baby out, yeah.
Ivan, replies, to be honest, it doesn't sound like you watched the video. Not that that's a huge issue or anyone has to watch it, but in it I talk about emptiness, not religious Buddhism. Emptiness can be subtracted and viewed as an independent philosophical perspective without religious baggage. And you supply a link to
Stanford, I think. Yeah.
Stanford's website, something to do with Plato.
No, it's Stanford's website of philosophy and their entry on emptiness. But anyway, yeah.
Okay. You continue. Buddhism as a religion is based around the notion that the wrong working of the mind creates suffering, and that this exists in the context of reincarnation. So there is implicit meaning in that, though not in the theistic sense. By not killing yourself as a nihilist, you are affirming that existence is more valuable than non-existence. Hence, there is a subtle sense of meaning. I don't see why other people's illusions of meaning should so bother a nihilist. Someone goes on to reply, "Hey, Ivan, I'm a fan, but don't tell me what it sounds like I watched or not, okay? I'm commenting on your video and don't need that kind of bullshit. I could go comment on a Jordan Peterson video if I needed somebody to tell me I just don't get it. So don't try that shit." Well, babe, if you have a different opinion than mine, you haven't watched the bloody video enough times. You reply, "It's so funny hearing a bipolar guy talking about enlightenment, meaning and whatnot. Get real, Ivan. Eat those pills. I'm sorry if I offended you. Fuck off."
Well, yeah, I mean, I was quoting him there.
Right. You were quoting his insult, his previous insult. Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I will have to say this is that to give a fuller context to this bullshit is that the video was about the Mahayana Buddhist concept of emptiness. Now, I did already record that fucking hour-long video or however long it was, so I'm not gonna fully recount it here, but it's kind of like a crude way of saying it. Like, let's say I hate someone. Let's say I hate that user, who has hurt my feelings over there. Well, I look at this, I look at someone as a permanent kind of entity, as an intrinsic entity, and I project my hatred into it, and I see the whole thing as objective. That is to say, I hate him. Whereas from a point of view of emptiness, nothing has inherent existence. Someone doesn't have an inherent existence. Maybe this was the way he was on this specific day. Maybe he's fucking drunk, which he kind of sounds a little drunk, to be honest, but I don't know. Maybe there are factors about him that I'm not aware of that would make me more sympathetic or neutral about him or whatever. Then my hatred itself is interconnected with my own life. So maybe I'm just taking out my anger on someone or kind of other peoples who have rejected and hurt me that enter into this equation. And then, of course, I myself don't exist in any coherent sense. Well, in any permanent sense, I should say. In any permanent and unchanging sense. So crudely speaking, if I say that everything exists in interdependence with each other on a continuous basis, then it is therefore irrational to believe so much in your thoughts and your anger, to go along with these distortions and evaluate different objects and aspects of reality that don't exist in their own side. They exist only in interconnections with everything else. Doesn't mean that they don't exist. And so this is that's the idea of emptiness, basically. It's like, what is a car? Well, a car is a collection of parts. If you take out one part and the car doesn't run, does it stop being a car? The part itself is a collection of parts. The car needs to have human perception and driving ability for it to be functional. Does it mean that the human is the car? Anyway, so everything exists in this perpetual state of interdependence. So as you see, this idea as a whole is not a religious idea. It does exist in a religious kind of a context, but it could be subtracted from it. And that's exactly what that video was about. So when this motherfucker comes in, and says, "Oh, Ivan, fucking take your pills. Don't talk about enlightenment and nirvana and all that shit. You're bipolar. Take your pills." He doesn't. He haven't. He's just coming in with his fucking cafeteria talk, fucking college, fucking cafeteria philosophy. It's so meaningless, Ivan. We believe in nothing, Lebowski. With that shit, and it's like doesn't even fucking apply to it. So, but I was primarily triggered when he said like, I don't need this bullshit. Like I'm fucking a server at a Wendy's. It's like I have a small channel, but even if I had fucking 30 subscribers, it's not like commenting on my video is if it's a great effort, and if you feel that it's part of your life, kind of feel free to refrain. So what are your thoughts, Mr. Robbins?
Yeah, banning him, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I mean, he admits that he's a friend of the channel at some point in there. So like, why he came at you so hard and strong? I mean, I think there's an element with your channel of like, people kind of feeling like they can get away with some playful roasting,
Yeah.
but this sort of stepped over the line.
Well, I mean, for me, like, I didn't care about like the bipolar shit. I mean, I was the one who like made videos about it and talked about it, and then you can't expect the internet. I was just more. What really triggered me was this kind of I don't need this bullshit. It's kind of like if Mr. Robbins, you made a video and I was a subscriber of yours, and you were like, and your video title was like. How to pick up, young honeys, or how to pick up chicks, or whatever. And then I go in the comments section and I was like, Mr. Robbins, you're an old man, a fucking old boomer. Fucking give it up, man. It's like, it'll never happen to you. You have to face it, man. You're going to die alone. No young honey is interested in you. And then you're like, well, it doesn't sound like you watched the video because my whole fucking video was a joke. I was joking around about it. I was imitating, let's say, a pickup artist. And then I was like, well, I don't need this bullshit from you. I came here and I made my comment. It's like, get the fuck away from me, dude. You're like a fucking venereal disease, you fucking maggot. Anyway, just kidding. Well, that's the anger that comes out of me occasionally. But it's kind of like the illusion people have that like maybe when you interact with somebody online, or when you watch a lot of videos, like you've heard me talk for our familiarity with me, that's kind of one-sided in a sense. And then you kind of, well, I mean, this never hardly ever happens, but I mean, in this case, he did, kind of feel, I think, a little too comfortable saying just kind of different bullshit. On the one hand, there is like this entitlement to comment on my mental illness, which is fine. But then there's also this entitlement that don't fucking tell me that I haven't watched the video. Well, fucking go ahead and motherfucker to the fucking Jordan Peterson video and comment there. Like, what the fuck do I need you for? Like, I'm not, I'm an insecure attention whore as much as the next YouTuber, but I'm not desperate to this extent.
Well, let him go on his merry way.
Well, anyway, like, I don't have any kind of, I was pissed at him at that point, but I don't have any, like, continuum kind of, I would just be annoyed seeing his comments. But overall, he's just probably some socially kind of awkward guy, probably another loner. And who knows? I mean, it is kind of a cliche that there are a lot of autists here, but it is conceivable that maybe he really doesn't kind of realize that there was kind of a contrast, that if you like say some shit about somebody being bipolar and taking his meds, then you shouldn't be so outraged when they point out that it doesn't sound like you watched the video. So
yeah, it is a little bit odd. I mean, given the top, some topics that you cover that are sort of polarized, that you don't get more of that. I mean,
yeah.
given internet culture, YouTube culture, frankly,
Yeah.
I'm a bit surprised that's not more common.
Yeah, like I really haven't Like, I've reported one user who basically like said that he'd like to shoot me in the face in the case of like a civil war in the West. So I've reported him, and then another guy I banned because I was suspecting that he was disliking all of my videos, which I had no problem with, because he was commenting +1 dislike. But then he disliked a fucking video I made that I've now taken off the channel about my friend killing himself. And I did get a little email because I just posted that video, and the first reaction to it was a dislike, and so I had to take it out on somebody, and I banned him. But maybe in a retrospect, I wouldn't have. It was back then I was even a smaller and shittier channel than now, so like one dislike at the very beginning of the sensitive video really hurt me. But aside from that, like this guy. It's just like I don't like kind of the sense of entitlement, or a kind of a familiar address to me in this context. At least I am your YouTube dad, but even that has limits. Sometimes you have to disown. But anyway, I don't have any kind of lasting anger at this dude. He's yeah, sounds like he's just a goof. Is he in the fucking comments? I don't fucking know. Maybe he is. Well, fuck it. You see, it's all solved. I fucking don't give a shit. Anyway, let's see. Let's continue with our program here. Megan Kelly. Right. We're gonna watch here. Megyn Kelly got in trouble for her blackface comment, and two white men, Mr. Robbins and I. Now, Mr. Robbins might be wearing a blackface right now behind that avatar, and in fact, his avatar could potentially be read as suggesting a blackface.
It could, or a Klansman, or a version of a Klansman's hood.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So last time during the stream, when I did a screen share on my previous stream, I actually shut down the stream accidentally by pressing stop broadcast. But okay. Where's my baby Megan? Okay. All right, this is going to be interrupted by a douche from the Wall Street Journal, but he's going to add his context as well.
I want to begin with 2 words. I'm sorry.
After making some controversy,
I want to begin with 2 words. I'm sorry.
After making some controversial comments earlier this week on her morning show, Megyn Kelly's career at NBC News is in limbo.
There was a controversy on The Real Housewives of New York with Luann, as she dressed as Diana Ross, and she made her skin look darker than it really is, and people said that that was racist. And I don't know, I thought, like, who doesn't love Diana Ross? She wants to look like Diana Ross for one day. I don't know how, like, that got racist on Halloween.
He appeared to be offering a defense or an explanation for the use of blackface in Halloween costumes.
But what is racist? Because truly, you do get in trouble if you are a white person who puts on blackface for Halloween, or a black person who puts on whiteface for Halloween. Like, back when I was a kid, that was okay as long as you were dressing up as like a character.
And that led to a bit of an outrage within NBC News and among the audience.
While she apologized to the staff, she owes a bigger apology to folks of color around the country.
Megyn Kelly is, of course, no stranger to controversial remarks about race. When she was at Fox News, Megyn Kelly made remarks that were often criticized for being insensitive towards blacks.
And by the way, for all you kids watching at home, Santa just is white, but this person is just arguing that maybe we should also have a black Santa. But you know,
she's the one who coined the phrase "Cupcake Nation." Long before there were snowflakes, there were cupcakes. But the issues and
all right. All right, now, Mr. Robbins.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just want to tell you, man, in case you were worried, Santa Claus is white. Not only is he not black, but even what Megan Kelly said there is also wrong. There isn't even like some other black Santa Claus. You know, there was one elf who was constantly quoting uh, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and selling the Final Call newspaper around. But he has been terminated. He was on the darker side, perhaps Dominican, that one elf. But aside from that, everybody is very white over there, and it's really a white kind of affair there, packing gifts for the children. Being the Santa is the white man's burden, and yeah, and it's just don't fret, Mr. Robbins, in case you were wondering.
Okay. Yeah. Boy, that keeps me up at night.
Yeah, and I like how it's like she's like, if there are any kids watching, like if there are kids watching Fox News and they have already kind of sat through this abstract discussion of Santa Claus, it's like these kids are either like they're mentally deficient, that they still kind of retain their faith in Santa Claus or even humanity throughout that Fox News segment, or there are like bigger issues in their lives than not believing in Santa if they're literally 8 years old and they're watching Fox News channel, you know?
Or there should be bigger issues in anyone's life as to whether or not a fictitious character like that is what his ethnicity is. You know, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I think to return to the biggest kind of faux pas here, it's the blackface. It's like Megan, baby, you don't have those fucking blackface ratings on NBC. You just don't have those blackface ratings, Megan. That's what I would tell her as her manager. I would say, put that blackface up in your sleeve and fucking whip it out at a time when everybody isn't looking for an excuse to fire your ass out of there. Like you're a big Fox News edgelord with your why can't I fucking wear a nice blackface? You save that, you know, fucking edgelord shit for a time when you're not fucking hanging on for dear life for your career because you're not generating ratings.
Yeah.
It's time to chill with a blackface, Megan.
It was a miscalculation for sure. But it goes back in a sense to old Norm Macdonald. You know, he could say something, you know, about what did he use? The term retard. And they trot him out on one of those morning programs, and he gets to give a benign apology and move on with his life.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean, do you think that she should have been fired for this? What are your kind of PC sensibilities on this?
I would have to say no. And I mean, I do feel that I don't know. We are almost getting too. Sometimes I feel we're getting too sensitive. And I watched that thing where, you know, she was kind of held. There's a later interview where she's kind of, I guess, taken to task for that by two African American folks. I forget exactly who they are now, but you know, she sat there like a whipped and whimpering dog, and kind of, you know, took it, which maybe she should have. But I think, you know, this is the kind of thing that really, just that image of a white woman who made a remark that may have been offensive, but wasn't. I don't think it was intentionally offensive. Who has to go out and kind of go through that publicly is the kind of thing that politically for people who are already riled up and upset, I don't think that does any favors whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, like, I don't think that somebody who says that should be fired. That being said, you do work in a specific sandbox as a media personality. You should be hypersensitive to that stuff. I mean, that's how you get paid. To understand environments and to understand the viewers. So I think that it's. I don't watch fucking NBC or any of that shit, but if she's on there, she should be sensitive for the sake of her career. I mean, I think the whole thing with like blackface is that I think to a lot of white people who do it, it's just kind of like they're kind of goofy and stupid in a sense. They're like, well, or at least oblivious to be sure. They're like, oh, now I'm white and now I'm black. But inevitably, to many black people, it looks like if you were like putting on a costume of a Jew and you put a big nose, that's kind of how it looks to them as. So, but the whole discussion is fucking stupid, and I ultimately I don't give a shit. I mean, I don't think she should be fired, but you know, you have to know where you work and what the sandbox is.
Yeah, and she's dealing, you know, you can be a bit edgier over on Fox, obviously. But
well, in that direction, not in another direction. Like if you say I like Obamacare on Fox News, you know, unless you're
right.
anonymous, yeah.
Right. I mean, it's acceptable over on Fox to be really, you know, edgy and controversial about the SJWs and PC culture and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, she needs to realize, I guess, that she's not in that environment anymore. And, you know, for the people who will say that it's all about culture, I mean, it's probably about economics too. I mean, they've got big advertisers on that show who probably don't want any whiff of controversy to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of that time, especially from and I haven't, you know, followed this, but generally from the right, it becomes, oh, you know, look at how horrid the culture is for taking her to task over something like that. But it's not always simply a matter of culture and politics. It's a matter of economics a lot of times too.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, you know, Megan Fox interviewed Putin twice, and so some Russians know who she is, and I guess it was broadcast in Russia that she got canned. And then when I was talking with my dad on Skype, you know, my dad lives in Russia, my parents are divorced, and I had to explain blackface to him. He was like, what happened? He had no concept about, like, no way of understanding what the fuck, you know, why she got fired. But I did fucking drop the red pill on dad. I think he's woke now.
So did he have an opinion or one that you could share?
Well, I don't think he gave a shit. I mean, it's just like, I mean, there are hardly any. I actually had a black friend in Russia, and we're still friends. I have a black Russian friend, but I mean, he's culturally 100% Russian. He's more Russian than I am at this point. I mean, and but anyway, I mean, there are no black people in Russia. This kind of level of political correctness doesn't exist. I mean, it's just completely foreign.
So have you given any consideration to next year what you may dress as? What would be safe? My understanding is that letters and numbers are safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I could be. I think I'll be dressed as the numbers of years that Bill Cosby got away with rape. So I don't know, like 32 or whatever it would be. So as not to offend anybody, and then I'll be wearing blackface, but very light and respectable. So that's gonna be my Halloween costume for next year.
Well, I'm flirting with the idea of going around as the white guy in white face.
Okay. Well, that would just be a ghost or something. I don't know. Well, you could get it really meta, Mr. Robbins. You could be the white man wearing blackface, wearing whiteface on top of it. You could be like, yeah, it's just gonna be like a Russian nestling dolls of. And it's like, ultimately, motherfuckers, my fucking blackface is covered by my white face.
Yeah. See, the more I think about this, there are, you know, multiple dimensions to it, because if I go around in white face, then I'm representing the white man. But what if I'm representing a white man in a way that another white man doesn't agree with? I'm stereotyping him.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't think white people. I mean, there are certain kind of things that white people are sensitive about. Like you can, but I'm not sure that this would be one of them. Yeah, I mean, I think that recently, like, to continue with the topic of political correctness now, I've stopped listening finally to the idiotic true crime books and have kind of resumed my podcast diet that I had before. And I've, as a result, listening to a lot of NPR podcasts. NPR, for those of you who might be overseas, is National Public Radio. It's kind of like the American version of the BBC, but it's been almost entirely defunded by Republicans because it's associated with liberals. So now they like beg for money and have sponsorships, commercial sponsorships, but they still kind of, I mean, I like them overall, I guess. I mean, and I was listening there with the interview of by Terry Gross of Jonah Hill, you know, actor. And at one point she asked him, she's like, in one of his stupid movies, none of which I have watched, like, I don't know, what are they even, like Superbad? Or I don't fucking know.
Jonah Hill.
It's like The Hangover, I think. Was he in that?
No, I don't think he was in that. I think he was in Superbad. That was one.
Yeah. You told me stop explaining things to us from overseas. Well, motherfuckers, I assume you're not so Americanized as to know fucking NPR, but I guess you are. I mean, I guess America does own the world. I was just working under the assumption that it doesn't. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, so then she brought up this thing, and she's like, in one of your movies, and this is a movie from like 9 years ago, if not more. She's like, there was a joke like, you approached a girl and you told her, you know, he told the girl, you know how like girls get drunk and like make out with somebody like and have sex and then regret it, and it's like, and he told her, I could do that way, and she's like, well, feel like, oh, horrible. It horrifies me when I listen back to it. It's like, what the fuck, man? Like, yeah, she's like, in light of the fact that so many women right now are speaking out against rape, well, about the fact that they were intoxicated and then taken advantage of. How do you feel about it in retrospect about this joke? And he's like, oh, it's so horrible. I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, he was really kind of, and I was like, man, this is fucking, this is sort of insane. He didn't make a joke as in, you know, how about I like ply you with alcohol and rape you? The whole joke was a self-deprecating thing that you wouldn't be interested in me unless you were drunk.
Yeah. So do you feel this kind of thing's, you know, finally gone too far? Like a lot of PC culture?
I mean, I think there is a like a PC subculture that is kind of I mean, the problem is that if I were to say that, I just don't think it's that important of an issue, basically. That's how I put it. Yeah, it has gone too far in certain parts of, in certain subcultures or certain segments of society. I'll say that it has gone too far. But on the other hand, culture wars are interesting to discuss, but they're not important. Like, Megyn Kelly blackface is interesting to talk about in a sense, but it's just utterly not important, and that goes for both sides. It's like you're listening to this shit about Jonah Hill and fucking Megyn Kelly's blackface, and then like recently I watched a report on Vice News that was actually pretty good, where they walked around with people who are digging up corpses in Mosul that has been where the Islamic State lost its battle, and they just went to a basement, and there are like a bunch of corpses there, and nobody knows who these people are because everybody fled the area, and they're not sure if these are the families of ISIS fighters who could have been killed, or they just don't know. There are just a bunch of corpses there, and nobody knows who they are. And compared to that kind of leaping into this shit about the joke Jonah Hill made in a dumb movie 9 years ago, not to say that like everything should be placed on that scale of a building with corpses, but were you gonna say something?
No, I'm just listening. So yeah, I guess the point you're trying to make is that there are far bigger problems elsewhere than what we tend to focus on sometimes.
Well, yeah, that part is obvious, but it's just kind of it's the psychological process of when tiny scales, tiny kind of events become crucial and central to people's existence. Because I mean, you can be sure that when that shit with Megyn Kelly happened, and there were people activated on Twitter, and like, I'm gonna type some shit about this, and really feeling that this is something like hyper important. I'm not saying I don't think political correctness overall is a bad thing, as far as being baseline kind of politeness. That is to say, if the argument is stated as in, whenever a white person puts on blackface, it looks like a caricature, and it's offensive for that reason. But to say that it's racist, I mean, it kind of calls into question. I mean, there are different definitions of racism, but I basically wouldn't. That's not my definition. It's just a kind of oblivious insensitivity, I guess, when people do it. All right. Okay, let's see. Have a few topics here. I guess we can kill stream. Okay. I wanted to talk about H3H3, but I don't know that I have that much to say about him. Let's conclude, I guess. Well, this is going to be something different for our channel. Well, for our stream, but not different from our channel. We're going to do a... Okay, there we go. We're going to do... Mr. Robbins and I are going to do meta humor sketch. We were just talking about kind of political correctness and social justice, and you saw kind of a certain male privilege and toxic masculinity poured out from Mr. Robbins. When I think about kind of male entitlement and swinging your dick of privilege around, I think about Mr. Robbins. And today we're going to examine sexual harassment in kind of a Louis C.K. vein, but we really kind of will try to get more intimately in there to understand it as men. And so this is going to be a meta-humor sketch. And when we do a meta-humor here, the emphasis is definitely on meta. And humor isn't as important, or at least it exists in parentheses. And I will be Mr. Robbins's gay boss, who will, at an accounting firm, who will try to engage Mr. Robbins in perhaps unethical act on my part, kind of pressure him sexually. And this is going to be an improvised sketch, and we don't know what Mr. Robbins's ultimate reaction is going to be. So there is a moment of suspense. So this is going to be a horrible disaster, and perhaps you will be traumatized by this for the rest of your day or maybe your life. But we will persevere with this meta humor, with the emphasis, of course, on meta. Some people are already turned on in the chat, Mr. Robbins. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. You see, this is what I do when I before I start filming. Like somehow like that neurosis kicked in right now when I started coughing automatically. Well, anyway, let's get ready. All right, Robbins. I see you're back from lunch. Did you have a good lunch, Robbins? Did you enjoy your lunch?
Yeah, it was really good. Arby's curly fries.
Hmm. Don't you usually pack lunch?
Oh, some days I do, but I was running a little bit behind today.
Yeah, I would be thinking that you would be the type of a person, Robbins, to pack your lunch because I associate people who go out for lunch with instant gratification, with a kind of a lack of discipline that they would stand in line to get some regurgitated food rather than take a few minutes at home preparing it. And I really thought that you would be the kind of a person, Robbins, to really pack your lunch as opposed to um, going out there with the swine, with the herd at Arby's.
Yeah, typically I do. I was just a little bit off today. Got up late, didn't sleep well. I had the salad. Everything I needed to prepare it in the fridge. I lapsed.
And that's what I thought. That's what I thought. I thought you lapsed because Robbins, I have a very high opinion of you here at this accounting firm. Now, we do a lot of shit over here at this firm, a lot of accounting shit, a lot of different tax shit. A man comes in and he needs something done with his taxes, he has some rental properties. He looks out of it. Where do I send this man, this confused, old, useless geezer who we need to squeeze out for some money? I sent him to Robbins because you know your accounting shit. You really went to school and you really kind of dive into that shit and you really understand the fucking numbers and all this the tax law. I mean, you're really in there. You're really in there deep, Robbins.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that vote of confidence.
Yeah, of course. Which part of like accounting shit do you like to do the most? Which part of really speaks to you when it comes to this shit, this accounting, this Roth IRA shit, this retirement shit? Like, what part of it do you really like?
I'm really more of an accounts receivable type of guy.
Hmm. You like to receive?
I like to receive.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's really good to know. For me, I get zoned out. I see different numbers around me floating around like a flock of bees about to fucking sting me all the time. I feel lost in these numbers sometimes. I get zoned out, and yet you get zoned in, don't you, Robbins? You really focus on this accounting shit.
I do, sir, but that's probably why you're at the level you are. You're the boss. You're a big picture man.
Hmm.
I'm down here below her crunching those numbers.
And perhaps I have a big picture for you today, Robbins. And the other thing I wanted to touch upon, Robbins, is your mother.
Oh
What
my
is
God.
it like, your relationship with your mother? And let's say, Robbins, you go to the zoo and there's a lizard looking at you with utter indifference. And then there is a loved one, like a sexual partner, that stares at you at the moments of climax, but not just sexual one, but emotional one as well. Now, I'm not implying that you would engage in sexual intercourse with your mother, but on the scale of connection, with one being the lizard, no connection whatsoever, and 10 being that total emotional climax and total connectivity, where, Robbins, would you place your relationship with your mother?
I would say 5.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's an older woman. We don't see that much of each other. I've got several siblings, so her attention is divided. Yeah, we see each other, a few times a year for the holidays, but we don't communicate regularly. So I would say about a 5.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about we go back to my office and I rub one out in front of you?
Um, rub one out. Um, are you sore?
I'm talking about my penis.
I don't think I'm very comfortable with that.
You just totally opened up about your mother just now.
I'm having a difficult time connecting the dots between my mother and your penis.
You have suggested a type of an intimacy between us, because normally people don't share those things out of the blue, like the things you've told me about your mother.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay. You know, Robbins, we've float through the world like snowflakes, in a sense that there is a uniqueness to us, but in the larger scheme of things, there is no uniqueness to it. We just kind of flow by each other, and then we fall on the ground and we melt. How many memories do you really have from your childhood, like real core memories that live within you day after day?
Very few. That's true.
Exactly. And it is when we become adults that we kind of solidify as people, but then we solidify in order to drift through life. It's like we're a rolling stone. We're a rolling stone, Robbins. But there is something that a certain moments in our connection, maybe a stare of a stranger at a bus or something, like remember that fucking Orson Welles movie with the fucking Rosebud, that shit.
Citizen Kane.
Yeah, you see a stranger out there, and it crystallizes in your mind, and it becomes an event as opposed to just a passing thing. And Robbins, I assure you, I always finish on the chair. And I think the awkwardness of this experience, the sense of discomfort, will live with you for a long time and will make this moment in time precious and permanent.
Well, I'm afraid I'm feeling a similar awkwardness too. And it's not something that I feel I want to carry with me for the rest of my life.
Okay.
The potentiality of this.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, I'll stop there. I had some more material, but I think once again, I think I'm always kind of subtly working to get rid of my last 3 remaining female subscribers. But have you? What are your reflections on this event?
On this fictitious scenario?
Yeah.
Wait. My experience in dealing with it as a fictitious scenario, or if I were truly involved in that scenario?
Well, both. Whatever really captures your fancy.
Oh, it's not bad to play with. I like silliness and irreverent types of humor.
Well, but you know, Robbins, you did sort of wind it down. You really didn't explore it. You seem to really want to wind it down.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not. As we're going through this, I was thinking of it in terms of what do they call that? Not the opposite of stand-up humor, but
it's meta humor is what we do.
Yeah, it's big in Chicago, but it's you work improv. I'm not a big fan of improv.
Yeah,
and probably wouldn't be good. But yeah, I mean, luckily I've never been stuck in a scenario like that. I mean, I'm sure it would be awkward. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, overall in the Louis C.K. situation, I obviously kind of expressed it, and I don't really have much to add there. I mean, I think that the thing about Louis C.K.'s situation is that it's not as severe, but on the other hand, the fact that people completely dismiss it is also wrong. And because it exists in this borderline between, I don't know, something people dismiss, and I think it's important to condemn it, because women shouldn't come to work and have to deal with male horniness, even if it doesn't involve rape or explicit pressure. It's like when I worked at a call center, there was a lady there, and a girl, and some dudes would hang out by her cubicle, and it's not like they were sexually harassing her, but they were interested, and I just thought, man, this is fucking annoying. Like, she would have to ignore them so they'd go away. And I'm not saying that they should have been fired or something, but there is something to be said about work being kind of sanitized environment, because when you're hitting on people at work or propositioning them, you're taking advantage of the fact that they have no choice but to be there.
Right. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
But as far as the Louis C.K. thing, it's like, I'm not a big fan of his humor necessarily, but the fact that I have not condemned Woody Allen by like rejecting his material, I would have to apply a similar thing to Louis C.K.
Well, I mean, I think with Woody Allen, I mean, there are kind of there is a consensual relationship with Sun Yi, which, while it's creepy, I mean, it is consensual and they're still together. And then there is the allegation of molestation. So it's kind of a different case, because it sounds bad, but I mean, you could say that you don't believe the molestation accusations, which I don't know if to believe them or not. And then you have a kind of an old man getting involved with his girlfriend's stepdaughter, which which is creepy enough, I guess. But I mean, it's a different situation. Whereas here, Louis C.K. has admitted to doing these things. And to me, I mean, I think the problem is that when he returned, he kind of focused on his own he kind of wanted to be just the goofball again. Like, hey, did you guys have a good year? Okay. I guess people want to hear about H3.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, well, I'll talk about H3, but I mean, I don't really have anything interesting to say. It's kind of like an old story, but I guess I'll just reflect on the controversy surrounding H3. Kind of why people hate them, and why people started hating them. So what happened there is that they have two channels. One is the podcast channel that they've opened up. It's the new channel. And the old channel is when they did their skits and sketches and that shit. And so once they opened up the podcast channel, they neglected the first one. And people were upset with the fact that they neglected it. They liked their old content, and I guess complained about it, because podcasts seemingly were easier to do. They just sat around there and talked about stuff, and there was no production value to them aside from putting together, whatever the podcast. So they stopped trying, essentially. And then after months of not releasing anything on their first channel, they released a game that they wanted, a game themed for their channel called the Ball Rider or some shit. And this game had in-app purchases. And then when they were confronted about it, Ethan said that he was depressed. The reason why this was happened is because a lot of shit was going on in their life, and they were depressed. So let me show you a bit of this apology from fucking Ethan about this in-app game with in-app purchases, Ball Rider.
Because we have disappeared for the past several months, and I want to tell you guys what's been going on. In short, I think the past 3 months and the past year, Shredder, come here. really wants to be part of this video. He's feeling very left out. Everyone's like, "Oh, bring the dog in. That'll make it more emotional." He's here, jumping at my side. All right.
Oh my God.
Can you still be mad at us? Can you still be mad at us over the video game? Look at that face. I'm telling you, you're still mad at us about that video game. The past 3 months, and specifically the past year, has probably been the hardest of our lives. It's just been a string of really difficult to handle events that I think really just took a toll on us. From my part, I was just feeling like I literally could not make any more videos. I just hit a wall where it was gotten so bad that it was basically either stop making videos or disappear forever. I just have accepted that I am like actually depressed. And so confronting that was hard because I always felt like it was like a weakness or something, and it's hard to admit to yourself that you're actually depressed. I've always knew that I had problems with anxiety, but that's almost like romantic. Like, ooh, he's an anxious artist. Oh shit, that's interesting. I wonder what he's anxious about. But depression is just like sad. It feels like.
All right, Mr. Robbins.
Well, this isn't a topic I'm very familiar with, so you're going to have to fill me in on a lot. So
Well, there's nothing. I've just filled you in on everything. There's nothing else to fill in. I mean,
they had this podcast and it got banned or something. Was there
no, they didn't get banned at all. Let's not confuse our audience. All that happened is that they released this game on a channel that's been active for a long time. People were waiting for mana from heaven from these two guys on their main channel.
Okay.
But they have neglected it because doing the podcast channel is more profitable. So when they do the podcast channel, they do an interview with a person, like they did one with Peterson even. And they then cut him up in little pieces. And then every part of this fucking podcast now is monetized. And effectively, because they were popular and they got a lot of views on these podcasts, like Joe Rogan type podcasts, it was just more profitable for them to do it. And that's what they were interested in doing. Like, that's not what they said, of course, but that's essentially what happened. And doing these sketches didn't make as much sense to them. They weren't as interested in it. But people still liked the sketches. And so people were waiting for the sketches on the main channel. And then all of a sudden they dropped this Bull Rider, which is a portable game, like a fucking game for your phone. And it has in-app purchases, so you can buy items for it, you know?
Okay.
And so people cried bullshit on that. And then they apologized for it in this video, in the video that we just saw. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So I guess people are upset that they felt they were being exploited or something by not being exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, and it's almost like a lot of the people who watch them were like younger, but not as dumb as people who watch other shit when they're younger. I guess they're like highbrow PewDiePie type shit. And I'm sure, and maybe people fucking in the chat watch them as well. I don't know. But that's kind of, and it seems like this moment has almost been like a youthful rebellion or a youthful disappointment with Ethan. But I do think a lot of parts of this are bullshit. Now, I want to say that I resent everybody who's more successful than me on YouTube, and since everybody is, I resent everybody, and I fucking hate YouTubers, and I hate these guys. I mean, I don't really fucking hate them, but you know what I mean. But this is the bullshit that kind of annoys me. Look at what a goof I am on my little hat. Oh, now, Mr. Robbins, do I look goofier and younger in this hat? Now,
yeah, a little bit. You look a little more hip. You look a little more urban. You look a little more north side.
Yeah, I look kind of goofier. Like, this is a kind of a working man's hat that I actually wear. But I mean, if I had like a red hat or some goofy color and was actually bigger than my gigantic head, I'm just so fucking goofy. And that fucking Ethan, I think that he's older than I am. And they just fucking wear these hats to like look goofy and they're running a multi-million-dollar business. It's just kind of ridiculous, I think. I mean, it's just like, oh, we're just two goofballs. Fucking, our dog ran in here. Oh, fucking unexpected. It's not, what a miracle has happened that in many takes of editing, a dog ran by us, and fucking Ethan immediately grabbed that dog like he was like a fucking grandmother during the siege of Leningrad during World War II, grabbing a fucking loaf of bread. He fucking snatched that dog up as soon as it like appeared in the vicinity. And it's just, all of this is just such bullshit. And this is what I would, this is if the world was an honest place. Now, if I was Ethan, I would do exactly what he did after he fucked up. But this is if the world was an honest place, it would be like, fuck the head. I'm fucking 40 years old, motherfucker. I'm tired of being your little fucking dancing monkey. Your little dancing fucking clown, fucking vape nation. I want to fucking do my fucking podcast because I can cut that shit up 100 different ways and make money on it continuously with a ton of ads. That's what I want to do. I don't want to do a little fucking clown show for you. And it just doesn't pay the same. I'm just fucking done with that shit. I'm depressed because I have to entertain a bunch of fucking teenagers and shit. That would be the honest thing, but that's not what fucking happened. That's not what happened with these guys. It's like, I'm depressed. Right, depression made you release the fucking schemy fucking game with in-app purchases, motherfucker. What a bunch of bullshit. Oh, I was so depressed, Mr. Robbins, I'm gonna release a game. just a load of shit. And depression makes you like it doesn't make you release games. I can never, in DSM-5, I've never found like that symptom of depression where you release a game with in-app purchases.
It's not a symptom.
Yeah, I mean,
not a clinical symptom.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is that people have limited empathy for depression anyway, and like I don't think that people should milk it particularly in this way. But I don't know. I don't really. I think that kind of hats, like PewDiePie also wears a hat to look like goofier and younger sometimes. I mean, it's so they're aging, and I mean they have some younger audiences. I mean, some people like him here in the chat also.
Yeah, I thought about that. What's going to happen to a lot of these YouTube personalities as they grow older, because they're going to have to adapt or adopt to their audience as their audience grows older.
Well, I'm not sure that their audience grows older or it recycles. There's some leave and some come in, so it's kind of a complicated thing.
But it's like it seems like at least like a pop star. Right, you have like younger guys or younger girls who appeal to, that audience.
Yeah,
but like when NSYNC or whatever those boy bands are, some of those guys are in their 40s now. They're kind of a nostalgia act, and they come around, and middle-aged women once every few years might fill up an arena, but it's not like they can tour the nation regularly and sell out those arenas to the 13-year-old girls anymore.
Yeah.
And I just wonder with like PewDiePie and people like that, it's like at some point the 13-year-old girls or whatever his demographic is, I don't know. I don't mean to insult anybody, but I'm assuming it's a younger demographic, aren't going to be that interested in what a 35, 40-year-old man has to say, no matter how he looks. So it's like, how do those guys, what do they do to translate the commodity of all those views that they have now into something else in 10 or 15 years?
Yeah, that's why they wear a hat. It's like, hey guys, it's me. I'm fucking, 40 years old. I'm wearing a goofy hat.
Right. You're still holding on. You're still holding on, trying to hold on to that. But that's what I'm saying. It's going to be interesting to see how people transition.
Yeah,
or,
it's like,
or will they not?
Yeah, no wonder he's fucking depressed. He doesn't know what the fuck to do. But anyway, they still have a lot of views. H3, I mean, they have millions of views. But I don't know. I mean, he used depression also before. Like, he got into trouble before, and he used depression as an excuse, like almost a year ago, making an identical video. But I mean, I think what he should. It's kind of like, yeah. Like, let's say I say, I don't want to do Jordan Peterson videos anymore. Like, I don't want to do these criticism of people. I just want to do streams with Mr. Robbins. That's all I'm doing. I'm just gonna do streams with Robbins.
Okay.
And so what responsibility do I have to my subscribers? Well, I would have a responsibility to patrons to alert them to this. Like, I'll say, well, this last month I'll do my, the last kind of standard issue and channel that you've come to know. But after that, I'm like transitioning entirely to stream. But then for me to kind of, and the subscribers, it's a simple relationship. You can unsubscribe, you cannot watch if you don't want to watch this shit, And on the other hand, for me to then say, I was just too depressed to make a fucking Jordan Peterson video. I mean, that's kind of bullshit. It's like, no, that's what H3, if they were honest, if they didn't have to play literal dad and mom over their hip, or at least like your hip older brother and sister, that's what they said. We don't like doing that shit anymore. But they can't seem to say it, so they just used it to drop a commercial for a fucking game with in-app purchases. And they just can't be honest, I guess, that they don't want to do that shit anymore. Like, like you're a full-time YouTuber. If you can do a fucking stream or like a podcast, then you can fucking do a video also.
Yeah, I guess as you're describing that, that's kind of what's running through my mind. Is you've got people, like this couple who are, what are they? Probably 35, something like that. Maybe now 30, 35. And as part of the, their traditional audience has maybe fallen off, you've got to grasp at straws to try to still find a way to commodify what you've had.
Well, I don't even know that they're like falling off so much. I mean, they're still like, their podcasts, I think, get more views than like Joe Rogan. So I mean, they're still gigantic. I mean, they're millionaires. They live in LA, but yeah, it is kind of like, and I do think that like also a game with in-app purchases is also complete bullshit. I just think that it's like a kind of a, I mean, you don't fucking. I don't know. I'm not fucking coming out with in-app purchases game on my channel. Fucking, I actually have a game idea with in-app purchases, to be honest, if I have to confess. And this is going to be Ivan's Shady Existence, the game. So in one part of the game, Mr. Robbins, you are chosen. You are Agvan Dorjev, living in the 21st century, but you can travel back in time and kill Chairman Mao so he doesn't invade Tibet. Does that sound fun?
Yes, that could be fun.
Exactly. And you travel back in time to kill Chairman Mao as Agvan Dorjev in the body of like a Russian immigrant in America. And then like different bodhisattvas talk to you, but nothing makes sense. Like, you try to fight different Chinese soldiers, and then bodhisattvas tell you something, and then they ghost you, like all the women in your life. That's what the bodhisattvas do. Like, they say, fulfill this quest, and then like you fulfill it, and then you're like, well, where's my special power bodhisattva? She's gone. The bodhisattva's gone. And then you go on to fight Chairman Mao, and Chairman Mao fucking turns into your mother. That's the weird fucking thing. Okay, and then and then you have the option of taking lithium. This is the in-app purchases lithium, and then you take lithium and you realize that the first game, Robbins, was a complete waste of time. You've been fucking playing it for fucking hours and days. It's just utterly pointless. There's no point to it. It's just a huge waste of time. And now your game is like you're driving around in a cargo van, and it and your game is to make it to different auto parts stores as fast as you can, and you just have to curse at different drivers and call them homophobic slurs and stuff, even though you don't want to. And and then you make it there on time, and then you get paid wages, and then you have to make the strategic decisions as to which repairs you're gonna make so it doesn't fucking fall apart on your ass. So that's the fucking game. And the next fucking in-app purchase is a gun. Just a little joke over there. Anyway, any comments, Mr. Robbins?
Well, that was my question. These in-app purchases, are they purchases that help advance you in the game, or actual material items? Now, you were joking about the gun, but I was thinking something like a fleshlight. Have you ever considered selling bottles of Ivan's Salty Tears?
Well, no, I already told you at the beginning about the Gentleman Weeper. That's the one I'm coming at. It's the handkerchief with a special silk handkerchief with a tear.
Well, I think that's what prompted the idea of the little bottle of tears.
Yeah. Well, that's too much effort for one thing. It is a gimmick, would be, I feel, in a way that what is the point of these salty tears? Whereas a handkerchief that announces you as an alpha male gentleman weeper, it tells you who you are when you go into the interview. It tells you when you have a special handkerchief issued by the stream.
But your authentic tears would contain your pheromones, which I think, as an alpha male, could be something advantageous to, say, a beta male.
Yeah. I don't know, Mr. Robbins. You have to show me the science first that the salty tears contain pheromones. Well, anyway, let's see. I'll answer a few questions. There was a question about what I think about Sessions resigning. I mean, I think it's a piece of shit. It's one of those things where there is no real checks and balances on the president. I mean, the Congress can investigate him, but the Congress is just party dominated. So, like, Nixon very well may not have been impeached if Democrats didn't control Congress. So, in that case, you have a reliance on Attorney General, which is the part of the administration investigating the administration, which is odd. I mean, they had the independent prosecutor under Clinton that the Congress would appoint to do an independent investigation. And I mean, I think that, I don't know, if that was codified better and if there were actual, like, more rules and regulations to these independent prosecutors so they couldn't drag on forever, that might have been a better idea than just having the executive branch, because it looks shady and I don't like it. And then my election predictions for 2020, I don't know. I really have, I mean, I do hope that Trump isn't reelected. I am a liberal, but I really, I don't know anymore what's going on, Mr. Robbins. I fucking don't know. I mean, I do think that it's possible that people would get tired of Trump's act. Maybe not his core base, but it's just like too much personality constantly. Like, at first you could say, oh, I don't agree with everything he says, but, you know, it's kind of entertaining, or it's, you know, there are other things to make up for it. But as time goes on, yeah. So as time goes on, some people, like, closer to the middle might get tired of his shit. Democratic nominee, I don't know. I'm kind of removed from it. And I think it's a good chance it's going to be a lady. I don't think it's going to be Andrew Cuomo. I mean, he seems like Harris. What is her name? I forget. Senator from California. I'm not sure, but I haven't really followed it as much. But I'm pretty sure it's like Andrew Cuomo has been trying for it for a long time, but I'm not sure he's going to get it. I mean, I think he has no charisma. Well, anyway, my friends, Robbins, any final thoughts?
No, I have nothing to add.
All right, I'll say never Hillary. I don't want Hillary as the nominee. My friends, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.